voted yet, is that where we are?
He hasn't started the meeting. Wait.
I'm done.
Oh, wait. Oh, wait. Sorry. Yeah, just gotta, so much work to do, but I'm done.
Oh, you're done.
Trust me. I'll go ski. Yeah. We have.
The Thursday, December 18th, 2025 school committee meeting. We've just returned from executive session. This time I'd like to open the meeting with a roll call of the school committee. Michelle Kirkby here.
Diana Frischella here.
Leo Brem here.
Will Horn here.
Sophia Viglas here.
Thank you. At this time I'd like to open public input. Members of the public are welcome to comment during the public input either here or through Zoom. If you're on Zoom, please raise your Zoom hand. We ask that you keep your camera on when making a Zoom comment and that you follow school committee policy for public input, including speaking for no more than 3 minutes and only on topics under the purview of the school committee. And whether you're here in person or on Zoom, please state your name and address for the record. Public input.
Yep. So we need to promote them.
Yes.
So Allie,
Can you bring over Allie?
can you bring over Allie?
Allie, come on down.
Okay, Allie, you should be all set now.
Hello?
Hi. Okay. I heard something. Allie?
Yeah, can you speak a little louder?
Sure. Hi, my name is Ali Spitaleri. I'm at 107 Green Street. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
I just wanted to make a comment, as I know you will be talking about the budget. I know the budget poses many problems and challenges, but I wanted to offer a perspective as a parent and an educator that I truly believe that teachers are the backbone of a good school district, and it's really important that we keep strong educators in place. And as you work towards managing the budget, that there are no positions that will be cut, but it's important to keep those teachers there. And I'm also a parent who has a child who will be entering the large kindergarten class next year. I worry about class size, and I would hope that the number of students would be able to remain the same in those kindergarten classrooms. I'm also aware too that sometimes when balancing a budget, it's necessary to bring in perhaps newer staff at a lower pay rate so that everything kind of evens out. And that in those cases, that if it is a newer teacher, that they are given good support and coaching to help them be successful in the district.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment?
No other
Okay.
hands.
All right, no other hands. All right, moving on to the consent agenda.
Oh, hold on, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, Casey. Your hand just popped up. So it's Casey Kavanaugh?
Can you bring Casey over? Yep, okay. Casey?
Hi, sorry, my button wasn't working.
It's okay.
Casey Kavanaugh, 47B Pound Street. I noticed on the agenda there was discussion about the Rose Bay development. And I spoke on the ZBA meeting a couple weeks ago. But I would just hope that the school committee and school staff is just being mindful of the pedestrian traffic. We have a lot of students that walk through our yard, walk and cross through that path. I feel like it's really important to make sure that that path is not only viable but also safe for these students to walk through, to get to school safely, and to make sure that the new development isn't impeding on that in regards to the added traffic. The entry point right now for the units is right next to that path. So I know there's lots of CDA meetings to come, things like that, and I know that the school committee will be involved in that. So that was just a comment I was hoping to bring up.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
No.
Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. So this evening, we have the approval of meeting minutes from 11/6/2025, approval of the regular meeting minutes from 11/21/2025, and a donation in the amount of $825 from the Blake Middle PTO to be deposited into the Blake gift account for the Egypt presentation. Does anyone have any questions or comments on anything in the consent agenda? Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you. Next up is the student advisory. I'm going to turn it over to Will and Sophia.
So we're excited that we have our students here again. I think we have 3 students, we're missing grade 11 maybe today, right?
Oh, yeah, do you vote?
Okay, great, thank you. And so I think a couple things that we asked students to think about if they had the opportunity in terms of talking with their peers was about just AI use, as that's coming up in terms of some upcoming policy talks and just how students are using AI. And in addition to sort of the normal sort of update on how things are going. Am I missing anything else? All right. Do you want to start with Athena?
All right, I'm going to present for my grade, grade 12, and also for grade 11 in place of Elliot. Okay. Just got to pull up my notes. So some things that have been happening with the seniors lately, just good things. A lot of applications are coming back for some kids, which is really exciting. Lots of acceptances we're all really happy about. Senior project is starting and people are thinking about that. And if anyone has any questions, they can ask me about that. I'm going to talk about that a little later. In regards to AI in the classroom, just from my experience, in English we're using Grammarly to check only grammar mistakes. So for when it's giving words like to supplement in, we're not doing that. It's like commas, periods, just misspellings and stuff. And our teachers are having us put the Grammarly version that we put through and then also the version that we had before we checked it so that they can compare the two, make sure we're not using it the wrong way. Last year, a lot of kids from the AP Lang classes were telling me that they use AI to help find their sources in their rhetoric essays. I don't know too much about that since I didn't take the class, but they said it was really helpful for them to help find the sources that they would then write about. I know a lot of times when people are studying, they use AI to help them like understand concepts that they don't understand quite yet, especially when you can't get to a teacher. Especially in those last minutes of studying, like at night, right before the test. Can't really email. We also discussed after-school help, which we mentioned last meeting that we were here, because a lot of people really miss it because of the one-on-one aspect. I know a lot of people that would go 1, 2, even 3 to 4 times a week, especially around this time of year before holidays, before any break. There's usually a big load of tests, and a lot of people like to go after school to get their one-on-one time with the teacher. I was asked to talk about link tutors. I don't know if you guys know what link tutors are. Do you know what link tutors are? All right. So we have a link tutor program where teachers can sign up to have a link tutor in their room, and I am one. I know a couple people are, but it's a student in the room who's taken the class, who did pretty well in the class, and they're there during flex to help out with like things. Since there's only one teacher, there's sometimes like up to 30 kids in the flex trying to get help for their tests and homework and stuff. So having the link teachers there are really helpful to answer questions. Right now we have 12 teachers participating in the program, and there's 44 tutors. One thing that the seniors wanted to bring up is the senior project deadline. A lot of people, the deadline's the day after break, I think, and a lot of kids were feeling really rushed for that, and they want to see it extended at least a week. But I don't know if you guys have anything. Do you guys have any questions for me about 12th grade?
Is it normally the day after break? Do you know if
I
that's
think
different?
last year it was, but I don't know. We kind of got it introduced. I think we got it introduced only 3 weeks ago. So people are feeling like they have to find a teacher, they have to write an essay, you got to fill out your calendar, you have to get it approved, and I think some kids need an extension. Yeah.
Is there any opportunity to meet with teachers before school?
I don't think we're allowed to, no. With the new start time, I think that was one of the rules that I think only student council is allowed to meet before school, but not with teachers. I also think there's like a limited amount of time that teachers are allowed to be here with students. Yeah. Okay. Moving on to 11th grade, unless anyone has any more questions. Sorry, I'm so crazy. I'm a chorus concert. That's why I look like this. All right, so Elliot says that class of 2027 is having a fundraising raffle basket. So they worked with local businesses like Noon Hill, Park Street, and Duncan to help find funds for the baskets. Has a bunch of gift cards from those different places and a prom ticket. They said the basket's still running and they're going to pull the winners tomorrow, actually. They're still brainstorming more fundraising ideas for prom, and they still need to work with the venue, which is like Pearl and Rentham, regarding the food costs, renting, and the different themes that they can do. They said that they're still going to run a car wash later next year and possibly a bake sale. And then Elliot has some talking points that he talked with the juniors about, so we'll go on and do that. They really want to bring back EPT. So EPT was the extended passing time right after second period. It was for 15 minutes. Right? Was it 15 minutes or 10 minutes? 10 minutes. They said possibly having it before last period after lunch, especially with the schedule moving back this year. They said it's a good time for students to rest, grab a snack, or short meetings with teachers and if you have questions or something. The winter semi-dance for juniors and seniors is coming up. They said it seems to lose momentum quickly, and people didn't like how the lights were on the. They're talking about last year. Last year the lights were on and on one side of the gym and not the other, and they didn't like that. Too bright in there.
That's funny.
They were talking about right before break, the mental state of students. A lot of people are really tired right before break because there's lots of cramming of tests, and it becomes really difficult to schedule things, especially if you need extra help after school. And flex periods are sometimes insufficient if people already missed class or want to take a test early, avoiding having 3 tests in one day. So I think there's a rule where we can't have 3 tests in one day, and especially when people leave for break, like a couple days early, sometimes they miss those tests, and then teachers try to put the tests in flex before, but you can't have too many tests in one day, so they're saying it's a lot of cramming. They're excited for break, but there's always that lingering feeling of needing to study because some of the tests and assignments are like super soon. In regards to AI, they said AI can be useful for finding quick facts and easy answers. That usually requires digging through multiple sources, but there's a lot of discrepancies and errors when it comes to the accuracy of the information, so they don't really know what sites they should be using for those tasks. Students agree that AI should not be used for assignments that have explicitly instructed no AI. There should be clear guidelines given when considering AI and whether it's specifically allowed or if it's like ambiguous. So I think they're a little confused on when we can use it and when we can't use it. The phone situation seems good, they said, with the use of caddies, and the students are less distracted by the phones in class. And then in regards to MCAS, they said that the students feel generally well prepared for the MCAS exams and the relief that they're done, since now they're in 11th grade. And that's it for 11th grade. Any questions that I might be able to answer? I think it's pretty similar to us. Sorry, that was a lot.
That was good, thank you.
Thank you.
10th grade.
Hi, I'm Lily Patton. I'm the sophomore representative. Yesterday, juniors and sophomore officers met with Mrs. Mendoza and Mrs. Hagan to discuss any concerns or improvements we have for the school. And I have some topics that we discussed. The first topic was half-day schedules. So currently our half-days are all classes just with shortened periods with no flex time. And the students voiced that they would like the teacher development half-days better. And on these half-days, we do have a flex period usually, and it's the regular day schedule just with shortened periods. And that allows time to get extra help and flexes. And on those regular days with only every shortened period, you get a lot of homework, and then the night before you're stressing because you got homework in every class, so it's kind of stressful. The second topic we discussed was not having extra help after school. The students said that they would only need really one extra help day during the week to just manage their time better and meet with their teachers one-on-one, because I know that's very important. And also, freshmen, I feel last year I utilized extra help a lot, and it's very important just to get that one-on-one time with your teachers, and especially with the new level of learning, I think it's very important that we have extra help. And flexes are very, very busy because many kids have questions and they're going up to the teacher, and then some kids are taking tests in flex, and it gets really chaotic and busy. Another topic we discussed was workload. Many units come to a close around the same time, leading for certain weeks to have a lot more tests than others. And now definitely is a big test week because of break coming up, and teachers like to pack in all the tests before break. And it tends to be a lot, so making sure that teachers check the testing schedule would be very helpful, just to see when certain tests are, to maybe schedule other tests. And then same topic was missing extended passing time. Everyone misses having this break during school and being able to grab a snack and everything. And then the last thing I'd like to talk about is the sophomore class raised $400 with their 21 North fundraiser, and we plan to do another fundraiser soon. Do you have any questions?
I have one, sorry, the half-day thing, when you're talking about, so do we have a half-day schedule where everything's shortened and include flex, and then one where it's half-day and everything's shortened with no flex? Is that
Yeah.
is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And kids like flex more, obviously.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's only on the teacher development days is when we have the regular schedule just with shortened periods instead of having every single class.
So the conference days, your half
Conference
days,
days,
but
yeah.
so the conference day, your half day schedule looks different than
Yes.
other half days.
Yes.
Okay.
Sort of. No.
We're trying to
You're-
keep more of real classes in place than just, yeah, we're trying to give
Brenda
instruction
can-
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that seems like, okay, cool.
On flex, I'm trying to take a test. Is that the whole flex period, or just do those kids try to take a test in half of it, like a flex A and flex B?
It's definitely the whole flex, A and B. And it's also very distracting, being in a big flex with a bunch of people asking questions, and then you can't really ask the teacher questions if you're trying to take your test. And everyone's kind of running around, and it's very chaotic to even take a test in flex. But we actually introduced a new thing this year where there's a testing room that it's a quiet room, but not many students are know about this. So I think advertising that more to be able to go to a place that's quiet and proctored by a different teacher. Although like you can't ask questions to like the teacher you would be taking the test with. Yeah. Yeah.
So there is a testing room now?
Yeah, it's
Like-
just not many students know about it.
It's not well utilized.
So it's just letting people know.
So how does it,
What's that? Yeah, but it doesn't even seem like it should be on the kids to find it, right? We just need to, okay.
yeah, because the test would have to get to whoever's proctoring them.
Yeah.
Sure. And in the high school, there's 0 after-school time to get help from teachers. Because in the middle school, they all have one day. Right,
Is it
right,
rotated?
right, no, no, but different teachers have different days.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just don't have any high school kids yet. One day they can go after school in the middle school and they, make it happen if they need to, but it doesn't exist in the high school.
No.
Okay.
Is there like a short window to check in, or is it like they're walking out the door with you to go to the bus?
It honestly kind of depends on the teacher. Like I've had conversations with teachers that have told me like I'm here for you, like I can stay after school, and then others are like, no, this is like a contract. It honestly depends on the
So they
teacher.
quote the contract to you.
Yeah.
I know, exactly.
One thing that I think was mentioned last time, and I'm just curious, like now that school's sort of in the swing of it a little bit more, was how full Flex is, and both of you mentioned that Flex was full, like was pretty full. So I guess, does that feel like pretty consistent, that like it's pretty full every time? And what does full mean? Is, I don't know how many, 30, I heard, right? Is that
And there's like a limit to
20-ish? Okay.
I'm sorry.
there's a limit to how many kids you can also have in a flex.
Yeah.
And sometimes teachers have to like exceed the limit because so many kids need to come in to ask for help and everything.
But in your experience, when you go, it's not like some days it's 20, but other days it's 5. Does it feel kind of consistently full?
I mean,
I'm not, you don't have to quote numbers or.
just on like testing weeks, it's probably like
Yeah.
Gotcha,
Like
okay.
more
it's-
people wanting the help before the test.
Yeah, like it's full now, but if you
yeah.
went last week, there was no one there because no one took the test, right?
You have to plan
So-
ahead. To,
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Lily.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
That's the same. Is that the same with you guys?
All our kids have to go to Flex.
Hi, I'm Ellery DeShays. I'm the 9th grade representative to the school committee. I want to talk about how students have been feeling leading up to school breaks and the role of AI in our classrooms and some feedback that I've been hearing from my peers recently. Right before break, many students are under a lot of pressure. We often have tests, quizzes, and major assessments and assignments all scheduled very close together. Sometimes even multiple in one day, like what you were saying, the multiple tests in one day. From both my own experience and some conversations with my peers, this becomes extremely overwhelming, and many of us feel that the assignments would be staggered, would really make a difference in like overall testing and how you do on the tests. If the teachers were able to collaborate more and just be a little bit more aware of when the major tests were like being scheduled, it could help prevent like just so much being crammed in the same week, especially before break, and into the same days or right before break, it just gets like hectic. This would really help reduce stress and just allow the students to perform their best because of the different staggered testing days. Another topic that has come up recently a lot is AI, and there are mixed opinions about it. Some teachers don't like it at all, while other teachers see it as a helpful tool too. I think AI can be useful, and it can be used the right way in clear explanations and expectations. Instead of banning AI completely, it would be helpful if teachers showed us how to use it responsibly, which would be teaching the students like what is allowed and what isn't allowed, and it could just prevent the overall misunderstanding and help us just learn how to use the technology in the productive way. For example, in my last history assignment, we used an AI program called Gemini, and Gemini is basically a website where teachers can like set certain boundaries and guidelines and send that link to us. And so you don't get random information from the internet, and our teachers with this Gemini set up clear guidelines to use help and find reliable sources, and without just like going crazy, like just searching the web, anything you want. And we still had to read and understand and use the information ourselves rather than just having AI summarize it and do all the work for us. And some students might be tempted to do that, like in classes in English, we had like a misunderstanding about if we could or we couldn't use it, and it just got out of hand. But Lastly, I wanted to mention something positive that I've heard from many of my peers, which is the link tutors. Personally, with my experience, I really like the link tutors. They're really helpful, and it's just better with getting one-on-one support when the teachers can't meet, when the flexes are so full. And having that extra support and like one-on-one time, you can bring them into your flex, like you could bring them into the teacher if you wanted to both go in, just in case you wanted to clarify something with the teacher. And that's just very helpful, having the extra support, and it makes a big difference and help the students feel more comfortable and confident in their learning. Thank you for listening.
What's a link tutor?
Yeah. So a link tutor is basically someone, it's like what she explained it, like the teacher who like took the class already, did very good in it, like just one of the students from previous years, and you can go in and just like the teachers can sign up to have you in their flex, or you can sign up to meet with the student one-on-one. Like if you did really good in that class, and like you can come back to help out.
So in your case, you're a sophomore, this class individually
Yeah.
is in a flex with that teacher.
Yeah, so you could meet with them in the library. Like I know I did for bio the other day. I met with my link tutor in the library. I just contacted her and we met together in here.
How do you, I'm sorry if I missed it when we were talking about, how do you arrange doing that? Like,
So I like talk to my guidance counselor, or you can talk to your actual teacher and she can connect you with someone, and then you can email them, text them, and just like get to know them more and have them help you.
Thank you.
Mhm. Any more questions?
It sounds like, yeah. I just want to say for the teacher, like this week stink, like a budding vacation stink. And I just want to say that I appreciate you guys bringing that up, and we hear you. And it's very, very hard, right? Like I appreciate what you're saying. Like it would be ideal if the teachers could all stagger it. But it's very hard for kids. So I hear you. But also it's very hard to like assess you in 2 weeks, to stagger that. So I just want to name that. I appreciate you guys talking about it. I think it's real. I think it's super stressful for you to have 5 classes right now. I just don't know that there's a quick fix or a long, like, it's just a hard one with big breaks. But I appreciate you guys sharing that. I just, we listen to you. We try to find solutions. That's just a really, really hard one. So I just wanted to name
And
that.
I think
but I
it's-
appreciate you guys bringing it up.
I agree. I also think it's a good preparation for college or real life,
sure.
because in college they don't, and then when you get to a job, like you'll have multiple deadlines. So as stressful as it is, I think it's good from a learning to prioritize. So we hear you that it's painful, but like college will be the same thing.
Yeah. But thank you guys for sharing all that
Thank
stuff.
you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to summer R&D. Dr. Marston, I'll turn over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Christine Powers here, and some other folks to kind of go through some of the R&D that they've done over the summer. As you know, thank you, girls. This is something that we've done for several years, and where teachers present or submit projects to us that have to do with our strategic plan, and then, you folks fund it through the budget. And we really have some unbelievable projects every summer. So I know Christine's going to share a few of those and have some teachers go through that as well.
Hi, everyone. How are you? Thank you so much for the opportunity. This is an absolute pleasure to present on this every year, and I'm really thrilled to be here. I also want to just apologize. We were set up, and the team was set up to do this last month. I apologize for the delay. I had a death in the family, so this presentation and the next one is delayed, but thank you for your patience on that. So the summer R&D is something that has been in Medfield for quite a while, and is really, for me, one of the hallmarks of just how fantastic the district is in terms of encouraging teachers to really think about projects that they're mulling around, that they're thinking about, that can improve their instruction, improve their practice, and give them the opportunity and the support to do so. And so I wanted today to talk a little bit about the process itself, and then have the opportunity to spotlight just a few of the many, many projects that we have had this past summer. So the cycle actually starts relatively quickly. It'll start in early April. When will we have that? And it's sent out to every educator within the district, and it's really asking them to really think about what is happening within their classrooms, things that they need time to collaborate, whether it's with fellow teachers, whether in the same grade level or department, or more specifically across buildings, for instance. And so that proposal goes out in April, and we ask them specifically to make sure it's aligned to the strategic plan. or any sort of large-scale building or department initiatives that's going on. They create this, and then they submit it, and then it's an approval process. The approval process is made up of the leadership team, who we go through each and every proposal, and we evaluate that not only against the strategic plan, but also for opportunities. What happens sometimes is that you have folks who are thinking about some great things, but one might be a memorial, and another might be happening at Blake, realizing it's the same type of project, and we're seeing through the proposals that actually these things are bubbling up independently, and we can maybe put them together and make something even greater for the district. So we'll do that matching as well. We'll let participants know in late May or June, and then it's at that point that the development happens. Development happens typically over the summer. The teachers make up the schedules themselves. They are approved for a certain number of hours in the memberships of the particular projects, and at that point they meet over the summer and they really develop the project and have a deliverable in mind. And at the very end of August, they submit both the project itself as well as sort of the capstone in terms of what they produced to me. And that's when that goes, and I review it, and I make sure those are all captured and housed with us, and that gives me an opportunity to push it out to the other people, which I actually have on a future slide in terms of the dissemination. This dissemination is sent to building principals, other stakeholders that are key for that. And it really depends on the project itself. So I just highlighted 4 different types of projects that we typically get. It's either district, school, grade level, or individual. And the sharing of that's really important. Really looking at making sure that the project itself lives beyond the teacher or the teachers themselves. And that's something that can be shared with a larger environment, whether it's shared at a department meeting, it's shared at a faculty meeting, or shared something larger in self in terms of across the district. So we really weigh that depending on the project itself. So just some statistics. I do this every year. We had 41 approved projects this year, 117 individual educators from across all 5 schools. And in some cases, they went across the district, which I really appreciate. It is sometimes very difficult for teachers to work across buildings, and they've had opportunities to do so. And what they produced was pretty phenomenal. Here's a breakdown of just the different types of projects, and I hashtagged them just so to give an idea on the approval process, but also gives you an idea in terms of what are those building-based projects, what are the district-based projects. Sometimes they span 6-12, for instance, or across the elementaries, and you can see there's a wide variety of projects that all are created by the teachers themselves, and they come to life over the summer, so it's pretty exciting. I have the complete honor of highlighting just 3. It's so hard with so many to select so many, but we have 3 folks here just to give you some insights of some of the fabulous projects. And I would love to call them up and have them share their work. So first, Kathleen Capra.
I'm Kathleen Caprio-Burkell now, and no, it's all right. I'm representing the Koala Cluster. That's who did the summer R&D. We did it together, but really, I'm talking about the whole 6th grade team, because our team is so good at Blake, really just listening to each other. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to work more on curriculum connections. During the school week, we can meet as content areas, so ELA meets together and science has the opportunity to meet together and mathematics. But normally we're talking about social emotional progress of the kids, where they are socially, when we have our cluster meetings, how we can help the kids academically, what type of outreach we have to do. So thank you for this gift of time, because this type of project, when we really get to go a little bit deeper and share ideas for the hours that we can work together. So Connie Doolin, Mike Gow, and Kelly Rominski and myself, we worked together to try to see where we aligned and where we didn't. So this started out saying, okay, we read, we write, all these integrated literacies. We read, we write, we have language, we do visuals, we do speaking and listening, but how can we make sure that the kids are making this learning standard connection? That's the hardest learning standard for us to really report on, I think, and when we're writing report cards. And what we found is we were doing everything, we just might not have been using the same language, and now we are. So every one of our Koala classrooms has a transition list poster. What I love about the entire sixth grade team is that once one of us discovers something, everyone wants one. So now all of our rooms will have that poster. These little things that sound like they are small things, they morph into larger ideas. The science department, all 3 science teachers are now doing a root word vocabulary unit. The kids are making connections across social studies and science and mathematics because the English department has expanded our vocabulary with just root words. We're listening to each other more about what types, we have lists of sentence starters we were able to put together for all of the teachers to use. Taking checklists to make sure that kids, unless the English department explicitly taught a skill, they weren't losing points in other content areas. But we're going to keep going. We're going to keep expanding this, and it's going to go across reading, writing, mechanics, and vocabulary. I don't think I need to read every single thing to you. I think you can read it, but it was exciting, and I guess thank you for the gift of time. It's morphed from a 3-hour R&D to what can we do next year? You know, and not even in the summer, but what can we take from this year where we aligned and maybe look at it in a more constructivist way? So, that's it.
Awesome.
Thanks,
for
Kathleen.
sharing.
Thank you.
The next one will be a interesting collab between business and art, and I introduce.
First of all, I want to thank the school committee. You support so many fantastic electives in our high school, and you let students take electives of their own choosing freshman year. Other high schools around us don't allow students to have electives until later into their high school years, and you afford the students so many opportunities by doing that. So Chris Faust and he teaches a lot of the graphic arts. I teach a lot of the business classes. As we talk about AI and real world opportunities, we realized that we both do a lot of project-based learning. And we realized that it would be helpful if we had that vendor-firm relationship and how it's built over time and how you have to communicate what your needs are, what your messaging is, what your goals are. So we thought we would come up with something which brought in our 2 classes where we had shared projects, and we changed what the expectations are as far as the rubric and the goals. So it's not always just making it and presenting it, but it's working with another group to present it. How this came about was we were talking about how surprised students were to find out that the $7 million for 30 seconds for a Super Bowl ad was just for the media time, but that they would use ad agencies to produce the messaging. And we realized we weren't capturing that in the classroom. So that's our goal. You can look to what we're doing. We tried to find the good overlap, and at first it was a little bit clumsy for Chris and I, and we kind of tripped, or at least I tripped over, trying to figure out, is it that we're teaching a class and kind of sharing students back and forth, or what part of the projects can we do? So we realized we'd have some projects which are in green. Those are the collaborative units. So we will work with, the 2 classes will come together with one wanting to do a project where you're reworking the packaging, and the other group is going to come up with the packaging ideas. And is it hitting the goal? And how can we test it? And can we see which media and which channels seem to be working the best? So we're going to do a Socratic seminar talking about AI, and especially in the art and marketing area. We've talked about intellectual property and what a muddy new environment we have to wade through with that. So that is going to be a fantastic Socratic seminar between our 2 groups. We're going to do a food truck project, right? So part of the class will work in the demographics and the marketing, and his visual comms class is going to work on the truck, the menu. How do you highlight what's most signature, what's most profitable, what's easiest to make, those types of details. We're going to have a shoe project. I don't know if anybody has children that really care about their footwear, but shoes can be quite the market and quite the moneymaker. So we're going to do a shoe project. So you can either decide if you want to do, Nikes or Uggs or Doc Martens. So Again, that's going to be talking about demographics, marketing, product packaging, all the 5 Ps there. We're even going to do the 5th one, which we're planning on doing for giggles, not strategy, is should we have a different mascot and logo? We can't have an Indian head and call it a warrior, but we miss having the 3 colors blue. Can we do something beyond the big blue M? So we're going to see what the students can come up with and present it to Dr. Marsden or Mr. Parga or Mrs. Hagan, whoever's available at the time that wants to sit in, to see if we can come up with some branding messages for that. And then advertising too will have its own units. We're going to do a certification. And it helped working with Christina on that because we were looking for one that might cost money. And she directed us to HubSpot, which is local and free. So that'll be fantastic for the students to have on their resumes, college apps. And Chris will continue to do some of his favorite projects that he did in an advanced class also. I'm talking too much. Do you have any questions about our collab?
So this class is not running yet.
No, we're going to run for the first time second semester, G period. Can't wait.
This is really interesting and really relevant. Like my son and I just watched On Brand with Jimmy Fallon, right? And I feel like this is really like exactly what they were doing, right? They had the businesses coming to pitch, and then the agency there, where the students, you know, were all putting together visuals and things. It's exactly what, you know what I mean, you guys are doing. So I think it's really cool and very interesting and very relevant. So I kind of wish they had stuff like this, you know, back when I was in high
Sure.
school.
And I'd love for there to be a business and a science class because they connect so well as far as like majors and minors. And we have some local talent, parents that would be happy to come in and give us a peek behind the curtain. So we'll see how it goes and maybe it'll expand.
So registration hasn't started yet then for this?
It has, so we already have our classes set up.
Oh, so
Yeah,
how many?
second semester.
So how many students were you anticipating taking
I
into Phil?
think I've got 25, and I'm not sure how many Chris has, but we've got well over 20, and Chris probably has about the same numbers.
So it was well received as a new class then? Okay, very cool.
How hard was it to schedule those 2 classes during G block?
She is.
I agree. I think this sounds so awesome, but I know the nightmares behind a school schedule. I'm like, we have this awesome idea and how hard it must have been to just put those 2 classes during the same block. But it looks like awesome stuff.
Should be
I'm sure
fun.
the kids will be excited about it.
Should be. Fantastic. So thank you for supporting all the electives. Next up will be Brenda Hagan, our beloved assistant principal, and Nat Vaughn, who starts culture in the middle school.
Karen, we'd love to have you come back at some point to talk about DECA and all the great stuff you're doing with them.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
That'd be really
Would
cool.
love to hear that.
Yeah, thanks.
They don't have.
Those are the kids at DECA. Oh, yeah, if you click on it, it's going to show you like one of the, thank you so much. Oh, so check this out. This is something Chris and I worked on. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like walk away, but no, that's okay. Just go ahead and flip through it. So, you know, you can see that we're going to have questions for our outside vendor. And they've got to produce those questions, and I've got to vet them, and they've got to make sense. And then they're going to have a request for quotes. And then Chris knows this really cool guy that we found a nice TED Talk on. So, yeah, it should be fun.
That's great.
Very cool.
And that's because you gave us Canva Premium.
Here we are again. Thanks for having us back. So we were lucky enough to have another summer R&D with our community. So just for those of you watching at home, if you're not familiar with us, Nat and I had the district-wide DEIB committee, which was established a couple of years ago. It came out of the strategic plan. And since then, we also have each individual building committees. So we kind of alternate months meeting. So the business meetings will meet in September, building committees meet in October. So we are trying to, as a district, really collaborate on these, topics, initiatives, action steps together. So we kind of make the agendas together for the building meetings, so we're all kind of talking about the same things. So the purpose of the committee is to examine and improve district systems and improve the sense of belonging for all students and families, and to identify barriers to learning and improve the school experience overall. I know we're pressed for time, so I'm not going to read every single piece, but our mission statement is.
I expect that from Brendan, not from you, Nat.
I'm making up for his.
Remember, the theme is belonging right now. I'm trying to name the irony right now.
There's our mission statement.
Good point.
That was revised a little bit this summer, but it's grounded in DESI's educational vision.
And part with the DESI educational vision, as with everything, with our frameworks, everything we align to DESI. And this really comes from the board, and not going to read the quote aloud. And then all students are known and valued. When you click on the educational vision, there's sort of three bubbles that come up. And this is really what we're rooting all of our practices and tying back to where the vision statement was rooted from some things, and then also our mission statement grounded in that. So just want to kind of recognize the committee members. So those are the two reps from each building, and then Marissa Kelleher, our wellness department chair, bridges sort of a district perspective into that as well. And it's been kind of a steady team. Some people had to change because of just their circumstances or their schedules as well. And it's been a really nice group. And that's just giving the timeline of since summer 2022, when we had a really large group kind of across the district that kind of helped spearhead part of this in line with the strategic plan. So this summer's work specifically was examining some of the data we've collected, revising the mission statement, and all this work is in conjunction with the leadership team, kind of bridging that, and created the action plan for this year, which really was continuing a lot of the work around family engagement and financial impact. So specifically, and Brenda will talk about the financial piece. Family engagement really was a broad focus. We did some PD work last year, and the analysis of data, what we were focusing on, where can things be streamlined, some strategies around consistent, effective communication. Parent Square definitely was a piece of that. And that's some of the work, too, that we've been doing, which I'll talk about what does effective communication look like, and what are things for all of us to consider, and what supports might be needed specifically on translation. And then teacher staff surveys have been really helpful. And then looking at the school-wide communication practices, what works well, what doesn't, and reviewing the translations. With some of the action steps we've done is leveraging Parent Square, retraining staff, and making sure they know how to access the translation services, where they are, and really making sure that they're clear and accessible for staff when needed. It's one of those kind of, I often say, like a broken record message we just have to keep circling back to. And then also personalizing outreach to sign up. So these are just a few of the highlights in regard to that. Trying to, can I move this? Oh, Parent Square, of course. So just like as an example of what the outreach to families can look like, on the far right, on the right piece, that was AI assisted. But looking, Sarah Pratt, I want to really just shout out for one of the Blake English teachers. We had talked a lot about what are some culturally responsive communication practices at Parent Square. And this was a visual that she worked on, and then we ran with the leadership team kind of back and forth. And each building is laminating and giving an example of this for each teacher and highlighting at their faculty meetings as sort of like a reminder to post in that way to keep in mind with communication. And then on the bottom left, Kirsten Cole, and a lot of it came through our building-based DEIB, was she had a great idea about a community-based book club, which coupling back to came out of our school site council last year, of talking about ways to bridge and how do we bridge things with the community. So it's a book club you'll be hearing more about in January, and it's open to the entire community. We've been working with CPAC, Site Council, and MCPE helped to fund this, and so we'll have the author come on April 9th, but the idea is how do we make more of a community effort and engage people outside. So we're really looking forward to that. And the book Whale Eyes is about accessibility too. And it has to do with the characters are all based on individuals with vision challenges in different ways. So we're really looking forward to it. The books arrived yesterday. MCPE and PTO have helped fund that too. So that's just wonderful way to work forward.
Nice job. Okay. So another thing that so all of this research we did last year. In the summer, we spent kind of putting it together and figuring out some action steps. So we were thinking about what are the barriers to participating in school events K through 12. So we were looking at the cost of the Medfield experience K through 12. So we asked each building-based group to go back to their schools and really try to like catalog every time we ask families for money or ask people to pay for something. So did we get every little thing? Probably not, but we have a lot of data. And so these were some of the questions we asked. What are we asking families to consistently pay for? Where do we see variability in cost? What stands out about how costs are communicated? Are there visible supports for students who can't afford participation? What new systems or partnerships could help reduce or cover costs? And what policies or guidelines could we create to minimize optional but culturally expected costs? So the things on the right are things that we kind of looked at for data. And essentially, every school determined that there are hidden costs that students and families experience throughout their Medfield school experience, and the financial impact may affect their sense of belonging. So, sometimes things that seem optional, for example, are, high school spirit days, if, for sports teams, if students don't participate, they may not feel, part of the team. So these are just some observations that we made. Bus expenses, what I've seen just from, organizing, senior crews and things like that, they've gone through the roof. So that has increased, ticket costs of our events, but also field trips in general. This is just from a high school, but the course costs are minimal. We don't ask students to spend a lot of money, but even like the little things here and there, every teacher is asking a student to buy a notebook, or every teacher is asking a student to buy X, could be costly for 7 classes and multiple children. This is stating the obvious, I guess, but experiences cost money. Big things, Hale, DC, international trips are about $4,400 each. Obviously, not every student goes on that, but could be obviously a big barrier to that experience. So I won't read all of these, but one of the big things that we looked at, we have a lot of school pride here. And a lot of athletes at our school. And there's a lot of kind of extras that come with being on a sports team at the high school. And our sports teams do a really good job of fundraising. They fundraise for a ton of the money that they spend. But one of our recommendations is to limit some of those extra costs. So, and I won't go through all of this, but, one of our next steps is to start to engage families more in these discussions. Our families do a ton of work for our teams, for our music programs, for our theater programs, in raising money. And I think having these conversations about how to publicize students who might need financial assistance and how to make sure students get what they need in a dignified way with some privacy as well, and to maybe think about what is really necessary, and if all the extras are really things that we need. Do the seniors need a bag of goodies for every single game? I'm not sure. I know I'm not going to be popular saying that, but so anyway, we talked a lot with the leadership team about this and about publicizing paths to financial assistance, and we put on the prom ticket. If you need financial assistance, reach out to Mrs. Hagan or your guidance counselor. So we're trying to say anytime that you're asking families for money, put that on there, put that on there, put that on there. It's just a reminder that it's okay to ask. So
yeah, can you just talk a little bit about the DC trip and how that's grown in terms of need? I mean, I think, in the last 3 or 4 years, the amount of money that you've had to,
Absolutely, yeah.
provide for scholarships has really grown.
Certainly, I know we've touched on it before, or not talked a lot about each past few years, the annual need in scholarship for DC is about $30,000. And people hear that, it's like sticker shock. It really aligns with the numbers that we have within our community. So it's not looking at that, and very fortunate that in our district that we do not ask for paperwork. We do not in that and really respond to people's needs. And we do a very wide array of costs. So people are asking for deferred payments. and different pieces, but it is significant. And I've shared before that we were very fortunate last year to have 2 significant donations from the veterans and also.
Lions.
Yeah, the Lions as well. And they did some fundraising and then gave above that. We've also had we're very fortunate in our family that we have a lot of families that do contribute, but we also recognize that's not sustainable in that piece. And Brenda's alluded, or not alluded, in the piece too about we have some very generous organizations in town that help, PTO, MCPE, CPAC, MMA. Their pieces, they all have different missions and different bylaws that they follow. So some pieces, they may be able to contribute, others, that's not their mission, or that's not. So those are things we want to think about. So we've been thinking much more, and the PTOs have really helped, and I think that will continue through about how to have a sustainable way that's following the class money. And the other piece, I mean, the middle school has expensive trips. Hale is an expensive experience, and that's a piece too that comes quickly too for 6th grade families. It's right on. So that's some of the communication is making sure that we're communicating that to 5th grade families early as we can. So, yeah, of course.
More like that sustainability part. I don't think I'm hearing you exactly. Like, how do you sit? What's on this action step? What's the ask, or what is the idea of making it sustainable?
I think part of it is trying to figure out what systems will do that. What's not sustainable is just counting on generous donations. Or that, we've had some families that will say, hey, I'll double our costs and just do a contribution. That's wonderful, but that's not a system. So what we're trying to do is thinking about ways that we can think about, are there some other organizations in town that may be able, not organizations or businesses, that may be able to contribute? Like we've talked about partnerships with like Needham Bank. And then also thinking about early on with elementary grades, thinking about are there some fundraising that contribute to the class? The challenge is, as you know, this is annually approved. So we can't guarantee the trip. However, if that money was raised, it would go towards that class and follow them later on. So if, for example, DC didn't happen or another trip, it wouldn't necessarily be for 8th grade. Like right now, thinking 8th grade trip building, but then other ways. And PTO's been doing some more. Their mission may not allow for some support, but they've been doing a lot of communication and working towards that, if that makes sense.
Sure. I mean, I was thinking outside that realm, and I'm sure there's legalities around it, but some sort of foundational fund that is established for that certain population within our community, right? That is not tied to a class, but is loosely tied to the district, like an MCP, but sits as another entity with a fund that sits and earns interest.
And I mean, the needs are real, and things are very expensive, and that's part of the whole global piece is trying to make sure that we're taking all that into account at different ways. And it gets different expenses and more expensive as kids get older.
Yes.
Really want to thank you for your support in this work. It's really important, and it means a lot, truly. I mean, just coming back, I won't go too off script, Dr. Marston, but just, we always talk about like, why do kids come to school to learn? You can't learn unless you feel safe. And that's all around belonging and feeling like you're a part of the community. So that's really the root of it, and how important it is.
Did you, out of curiosity, come up, is there like a number for what?
The Medfield
Yeah,
experience.
for like, I mean, I don't know if you want to say
I
that.
know,
but
well,
No,
that's what we're talking
Thought
about.
about
exactly
doing
it.
that. It's just like, and even especially when you get to the high school,
Yeah.
everybody does different things. So it was like, I was like, do I pick someone who does everything to make it a really high number to shock them?
Yeah.
So no, I did not do that.
15% of your population, and you do a sample size through a questionnaire
Yeah.
and the cost,
Yeah.
and then that's your number.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I was an English teacher for 20 years.
And I think it's a really good question, and it does vary a little bit.
Yeah, but I guess
I think one of the,
Yeah. That's more
and
consistent.
we have those numbers, we can get those.
Yeah.
And I think, like, to give rough things, what we're doing is making sure that we're annually looking, because we have made some adaptations, and some of it is like just our awareness. We didn't know that you were asking us, we can cover that in the budget.
Right. We
Like,
did
we can
that.
certainly do
yes.
that, like, let's adapt in that way. Like the example of calculators, we may have 7th grade math teacher saying, I want this calculator, 8th grade this. No, we're gonna find one calculator that works for 2 years, And I get it, like, there is a different type of math, but we can figure that out and just minimize those costs. Same thing about the 7 teachers across, like,
The department heads
let-
were like,
let's
we have a
streamline that.
budget for this, well,
Yeah,
let's
and
buy
it's
the
like, look,
notebooks. Yeah.
You all don't need to get colored pencils.
Yeah, right.
For each class. One set's fine. In general, so those types of pieces.
Yeah.
And raising awareness, I think. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you. Thanks for your support. Thanks, Christine.
Can I ask a general question about the proposals?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think I saw that there were, how many?
41.
41? How many were submitted?
Just a few more. We rarely just outright reject. What we do is we go back and we say, we can do this if we tweak it, or we want you to enhance it, or we'll put your two together. Like, for instance, we'll match something up. We had one, I think, in Memorial and something going on either at Blake at the high school. We matched them up. We try to get those and really work with them to make that a proposal. So I think it was maybe two more, but that was because they were combined.
Most of the time, it's just reducing hours. Like sometimes someone will put, they need 16 hours and 3 people to do this, and we kind of go through it, and you actually only need about 8 hours, and, so it's just kind of going through, but we spend a whole meeting, and we go through every single proposal, and then we adjust hours, and Michael has his computer, and we literally plug it all in, and how much we have left, Michael, and we kind of go through all that, and so lots of times it's just adjusting the time.
Yeah.
Because, for the most part, the proposals they're all really, really good, and they're all beneficial to our kids, they all align with our strategic plan, it's just making sure the money adds up at the end.
Well, I just want to thank you. Thank you for the ongoing support. I want to thank the team, they're amazing. I want to thank every teacher who actually put in a proposal as well. I would love to have highlighted all of them. Unfortunately, it's not time. Thank you so much for the support. Our kids really benefit, and our teachers do phenomenal things, so it's really great to showcase that today.
Thank you.
So much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
All right, next up, the MCAS presentation.
Happy holidays, everybody.
You too.
Thank you. Okay, so as we typically do, we're going to present our 2025 MCAS results. I think, you look across the board, again, we always talk about the fact that we always want to be above the state. That's kind of what we do here. And we see some really good growth in some areas. I know I had mentioned to you before that we were recognized by the commissioner as one of the districts that got back to pre-pandemic levels in grades 3 through 8. We were able to, attend a nice ceremony for that, and then we were invited to have staff members go and do some best practices at a conference, which Christine and 2 other staff members went. So that was great too. So it's not the end-all be-all, but it's important. It's an important data point for us, and Christine will go through all that and give us a good flavor of where we stand.
Everyone, thank you again for the opportunity to speak to you about MCAS. Lots of really interesting things to share, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. So my talk today will go over a couple of major things. I will review the MCAS scores for grades 3 through 10. I'll also do quite a bit with how we stack up against area schools and how we stack up against districts statewide, and then also talk about specifically how we use data to inform instruction and how this has evolved over time. So one important consideration was that question 2 was passed this past year, which basically decoupled the MCAS performance from graduation requirements. This was in the news. It was quite a bit in terms of that there are a number of people who believe that the change had some impact on grade 10 performance, as if it's not high stakes anymore in terms of passing MCAS in order to graduate. But we will talk about that, especially when we talk about our grade 10 performance. Again, and as Dr. Marsden recognized, we were one of 63 districts that were represented across the state. It was really an honor to represent Medfield along with 2 colleagues at the recent conference. And it was really fantastic to see that we are really doing really well in many areas, and we were able to meet or exceed pre-pandemic levels for our grades 3 through 8. So I show this chart every year. I'm going to walk through a little bit of it. And it's a couple of things I wanted to really highlight on this. So this is something that it's important to look at across. I have grade 2023 through 2025, and EE exceeding expectations, ME meeting expectations, PM partially meeting expectations, and NM not meeting expectations. And so these will cycle through, and you'll see that. But what I really focus on are that little part where it says ELA, 72% of Wheelock students, specifically in grade 3, meet or exceed expectations. And then you'll see in math it says 78%. That's something that I look at, especially as I compare year after year, because that sort of gives me the barometer on how we perform as a district. Now, I'd love for you to focus on that math, because that math in grade 3 highlights the work that's been evolving over the last couple of years, and really how we really can at this point use our data to really tweak and really make a difference where it shows up in MCAS. So you'll see that number right there. It says 78, and that's the combination of meets or exceeds. Last year, that was a 59. And so just to give you sort of a ballpark what I'm looking for, anything in the high 70s is phenomenal. Everything in the 80s is off the charts, like really, really tops. 70s really strong. High 60s, okay. Mid 60s, we need to look at. Anything lower than that, we really need to look at. So you can imagine me last year, 59%. I have it right here, 18% last year. It was exceeding expectations, and 41% meets or exceeds. We saw that number and we're like, what is going on? I reached out to Jen Belsky, our math coordinator, right away as soon as the scores came out, and we're like, what the heck? Because that is just to give you an idea, when we look at the state figures, we're generally well above. We look at the state, of course, but we're well above. But that was something that was key. And that was right away. Jen looked at the data. She goes, I know what it is, fractions. Right away, it was fractions. We have, and it's something I've mentioned in previous meetings, and something that has just been so significant to the work around MCAS, is that we have access to a number of tools that allows us to drill down on standard level data. And so we went through time and time again, and we see it. And what we saw right away, you can see this is from 2024, fractions. You'll see the number in operations fractions, unlike what our typical is around, we're 15 plus above the state. So when we see anything below that, it's like, okay, what's specifically going on? You'll see that's 5%. And then we can drill down even more. And where you're seeing that, like for instance, I'm looking at the 3NF A1, identify the model that correctly represents a given fraction. That's only +2 above the state. So time and time again, we're able to drill down fractions. And we kept on going. You see that -7 below the state average. Clearly, there's a deficit there. And at that point, once we identified where the shortcoming was, Jen and I talked about it. She met with the 3rd grade team, and they really identified what was going on in the curricula. What exactly is going on? And they realized that they needed to make curricular adjustments to make sure that fractions and those standards were being taught, and the actual unit was expanded, it was tweaked a little bit, and as a result, this is the following year. So those adjustments happened as soon as the scores came in. It was adjusted in time, and you'll see how in 2025, you'll see that fractions, number in operations fractions, were at +19 above the state. That was 5 last year. And you can see in terms of the overall scores, you'll see 78% of students up from 59. So that's just an example of the data systems that have evolved over time and our way to really drill down and identify, mapping it onto what is going on in our curricula and making those adjustments. So hats off to the grade 3 team and also to the coordinators who really do this work on a real ground level, working with them and CPTs, common planning times. So looking through, again, remember I said I'm looking at the bottom numbers here. You have ELA, 63% meeting or exceeding. That's an area of focus. We realize that that's not where it should be. And that's something that I'll talk about in terms of what we're going to be focusing on. But you'll see math, grade 4, 82%. This is the same cohort, got 59% last year. So we were able to go back, making sure that they had that fraction support, and also they just really knocked it out of the park. So again, phenomenal job by that team and those students. Grade 5, you'll see that 73% of grade 5 ELA met or exceeded, and 79% met or exceeded in math. Just phenomenal work in math. Science, very strong for this district in general. 73% of our grade 5 students met or exceeded state expectations. And then going into middle school, you see the ELA, 68% meeting or exceeding. That's 63% in math, an area of focus for us to focus on. Grade 7, 77% met or exceeded. Grade 7 math, 68%. ELA, 67% met or exceeded, and same thing with math. And then you'll see science. Again, always a strong suit for Medfield, 69% met or exceeded in our 8th grade science. Civics blew it out of the water. This was the first year that civics was offered. Medfield performed number 3 in the state. And given it was the first time that they performed, we have districts, I have a district contact me from all over, like, what's the secret sauce? What are you doing in civics? The team had really taken from the genesis from 2019, when this was really coming to play, really making a robust experience for our students. You probably see them on their bikes when they go visit town hall and seeing how government works. They do their government projects. It is really a phenomenal experience for our kids and hands-on, but it also translates into phenomenal MCAS scores. Grade 10 ELA, 73% of our students met or exceeded, as well as in math, 79%. Remember I said right around that 80%. It's phenomenal. And then our science, high school science, year after year. We were recognized in Boston Magazine last year for our science performance, and here again, you'll see 88%. So in doing comparisons, I always find it helpful to see where we lie in terms of statewide. So I have the columns and it's color coded. So please pay attention to the areas in blue. It is the areas in darker blue is that we're top 10 in the state. So that's actually top 10 out of the 300, anywhere in this case, 306 to 320 elementary schools. And you'll see that in grade 4, for instance, number 2 in math across the state, really phenomenal work. But overall, our elementary teams are doing phenomenally well. As I said, that area in grade 4 ELA, 37 out of 309 is still really strong. But that again is something like, okay, well, we can take a look at that. Here's the performance in middle school. You'll see strong ELA performance in 7th grade English, as well as science and math, science and civics in grade 8. And also just areas that were good in the other areas as well, in grade 6 and grade 8. And then finally, the high school, you'll see the top 10 performance in science, as well as top 25% performance in math. I always find it helpful also to look at our performance against area districts, and you'll see where we lie. And I also, if you look at the X-bar, which is the average between 2001 and 2024, you can see in terms of how our performance this year matched up to the average of previous years. And you'll see that we're holding our own in terms of steady in a grade 3 through 8, meeting and exceeding comparisons against our area schools. And much stronger.
On 225, right? That's the order going down is on 2025?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, because the other ones were higher in other areas,
Mm-hmm.
in other years, okay.
And then you'll see the performance in grade 3 through 8 math. Again, phenomenal year this year in grade 3 through 8 math. Science, consistently strong performance. And grade 10 ELA. Our performance was not as strong as it was in typical years. You'll see the average in 21 to 24 versus 2025. Math, again, relatively consistent, 81% average in 21 to 24, and we were 79%. And then there's science, phenomenal. So overall analyses of this is that elementary, we had strong performance this year on most grade levels and subjects. Multi-year focus on the science of reading approaches in ELA. We've been really focusing on ELA for multiple years, supporting on in-depth focus on professional development for teachers, a really in-depth work on foundational skills for grades K through grade 3. And also, we are exploring curriculum options in terms of trying to really provide a in-depth and cohesive curriculum across those grades. We're in year 3 of our math program, and that's paying off. I think you can see in terms of our teachers are feeling incredibly comfortable with the illustrative math, and really thank you. The many members of this committee approved our math curriculum a couple of years ago, and we're seeing that pay off right now. And we use the mystery science program in elementary to really bolster our science performance. In Blake, there's consistently good performance. Real highlights are 7th grade ELA and civics. Again, considering that was the first time that test was given, our team, our 8th grade social studies team did a phenomenal job. And then in high school, despite a decline in grade 10 scores, the rankings remain relatively consistent with math and science remaining exceptionally strong. Here's the 10th grade performance over time, and you'll see that on the right, the right two is math and science, and you can see that despite, remember that the 2024 question 2 that decoupled the passing MCAS to graduation requirements really didn't impact our math or science. And the grade 10 performance in ELA is an area of definite focus and something that I'm working specifically with the department chair on in terms of really unpacking and what that looks like in terms of trying to find the reasonings for that. So, areas of focus. We are always considering and continuing on our work with MCAS. We find it a really helpful tool. It's not the only tool. It's just one of many data points to keep that in mind. One other area that we focus on is student growth percentage. Student growth percentage really measures a student from one cohort to the next and really looking at that individual student in terms of their growth. The expectation for that is that we have 50% or higher. What is considered to be average or good is between 40 and 60%. We as a district would like 50% or higher. So where there's areas that we're seeing that performance across a grade level is below that, that's an area of focus that specifically we're looking at in terms of why aren't those kids showing the growth that other kids in the same cohort would have been. And so that's an area of focus. And as always, it's an area of subgroups. We're always looking for Medfield to be successful for all students. So we're always drilling down and looking specifically in terms of what is the experiences of our students in many different areas, including IEPs for 504s, low income, high needs, and EL. It's an example of just our subgroup average scale scores. Keep in mind that N is above 10. In this, so we don't have, in some cases, we just don't have a population large enough to report. But you can see the performance across in terms of the scale score, and it is looking at that over time. So this is just one example of data that we're using to look in terms of what is areas that we're doing well and what is areas of support that we can provide. Yep.
Here, grades 3 through 10 here.
This is for, that's 1 year. Yeah. No, we do look, I don't have it on the slide, but we do look at particular kids, and we have our tools, our architects tools allow us to follow cohorts over time. And that's something that we do in leadership, which I'll talk about a little bit. And this is blocked what it says, but it is grades 5 through 8 in middle school. And then grade 8, sorry, in civics. Yeah. So our areas of focus, I really wanted to focus a little bit about this, is one is elementary is that you'll see the math comparison with the new curricula and how that's really translated into phenomenal performance in our MCAS. But while our literacy scores are good, it is something that I can see that would be improved if we had a cohesive curricula that goes across. And so we're right now wrapping up our elementary literacy pilot. Surveys have gone out recently to all our stakeholders. We're really crunching data as we speak, and so we're in the process of really pulling that together to make some recommendations. In Blake, we have 2 new additions. One is the Renaissance Star Math. Renaissance Star is something that we use as a screener, as a way to identify skills. It is something that is done consistently, and it's been for a number of years in grades, in elementary grades across. It's something this year that we brought to Blake Middle School to provide an additional lens for our math teachers in that. And that's something that we will use to, again, help support math instruction within the middle school. So that's something we're about to give our second data. We gave our first data catch in the beginning of the year. We're in our middle year data catch. I met with a team of folks just earlier this week about our data catch that will happen in early January. And we'll use those data in order to see in terms of our students' skill acquisition and the growth that's happened along the way. And then, of course, is Blake in high school. We have a school-wide focus on curriculum alignment and vertical team discussions that have happened. We have right now, we're right in the middle of our math vertical team. Our ELA vertical team just wrapped up. And then consistent conversations that I have with department chairs during our meetings that talk specifically about, let's look at our standards, let's look at our curricula, let's talk about those connections between. And so an example of which was in literacy, the ELA vertical team really looked at a couple of standards over time. One is reading and one is writing. And we're looking at the growth and progression over time and having discussions in terms of where is overlap and where's areas of needed improvement. And so those conversations have translated into real examples of where we have, for instance, department chairs saying, wow, I didn't realize that this is things that are being covered, but these are not. So for instance, in high school, they realized that poetry is something that wasn't really being taught once everyone realized where the curricula was. And that's a hole that was identified that was inserted into the curricula. So it's just an example of some of the work that's happening concurrently that is really enhancing our look at using these data and then really translating into making adjustments to both our curriculum and instructional practices. And then a lot of this work focuses on data. We have, again, I cannot thank our data systems that have been given to us by the state, and it's also we've developed ourselves to really give us that lens. When I showed you the 3rd grade, that's just one example of all these different types of tools that we use to really dig down and drill. But it's most important that we just don't share it amongst ourselves, or it doesn't stay within my office. So we have a system of data dives that we do on a regular basis with our leadership and department head teams and coordinators. Just an example of our cycle is in September, October, the MCAS scores and the SAT scores and the AP data is all out by then. All that data is distributed to them. And then we have one-on-one meetings. We have a way to visualize data in really powerful ways. And we also have ways that both building principals as well as department chairs are saying, I really would love to see a cohort of kids from here in this grade and then last year, and what happens to them this year, and really match that up. And so we are able to manipulate data in a way to provide them with the insight that they need in order to lead their teams. So we've been really working on that. That normally happens in the fall. And then from November to January, we have data unpacking meetings. We had data unpacking meetings. It's myself with the building principals, and we sit and we talk and we have the department chairs themselves. They had an opportunity to look through and suss the data we have looked through, and then we have a full conversation. Please highlight the strengths and what are the wins, what's the secret sauce, what have you done to make your scores move, and then what's the area of focus? And a question I've asked every single group is, when we convene a couple of months from now, what concrete steps have you taken and what do I expect to see? And so it really gives that step of not only are we looking at the data, we're going to act on the data. And so those have been very productive meetings that have been happening, and that happens with any teacher that has standardized data. So it's not only our MCAS, we meet with our AP, for instance, so meet with the visual arts department chair who talks about her MCAS data, her AP data, for instance. So that is an example of how we use data within our district. And again, that's something that not only we do that with data unpacking with that, we also have a joint leadership and chair meeting scheduled data for January that we will all focus as a large group about really looking at our subgroup data and how are we going to support all kids. And then all the year is spent on supporting them. So the meetings are constant. We talk about it. I meet with the department chairs on a monthly basis. We talk about it there. The building principals meet. We have these conversations about data all the time, and a lot of it is what can we do to support the work and what can we do to make adjustments and really try to lever those changes in order to give the changes that you saw, for instance, for that third grade example between 2024 and 2025. And with that, that's the presentation for this past year. More than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Sure.
The science is given in the 10th grade.
Ninth grade usually, yeah.
What do they usually take for science?
Biology.
Okay. Just a question about just if there's conversations also about, so I see for some of the grade levels, like where either we're close to, for exceeding expectations, we're kind of around where the state is, maybe a couple points. For other ones, there's a larger, and then for one, we're exactly the same. So I'm just curious if like that's also part of the conversation of like looking at not just like the combination of exceeding and meeting expectations, but the exceeding expectations and how can we, where the areas that like we're kind of right at where the state is, like how can we bump that up?
Yeah, absolutely. We look, and it's an easy cheat to look at the combine as I walk through, but we're always looking at not meeting. Who are those kids, and why are they not meeting? And then also looking for any sort of adjustments, and that's where the drill down for us goes into specifically, are there specific topics, are there holes in the curricula, are there areas that we're not supporting, and what adjustments could be there. So our tools that we have allow us to take those scores and make them real by looking at, okay, if we have certain percentages, I can tell, and I can pull out those subset of kids to see who are on the bubble, for instance, or kids who did not meet, find out what's the pattern, and then make that adjustment, whether it's a curricular adjustment or instructional adjustment.
So I'm asking about the exceeding expectations.
Okay.
And if there's conversations about focusing also like on sort of maybe that high achieving group and how do we get more kids to that high achieving group? Like if that's also part of it, as opposed to just kind of combining the exceeding and meeting
Right.
together. Do you know
Right.
what I mean?
Okay.
Because
Yes.
for some of the years, we're sort of near the state for our percentage for exceeding. Some were much higher and one were exactly there. So
Yes.
I'm curious if that is, yes, they've met and they've exceeded it. How do we get more kids maybe to also exceed it?
It is in that larger celebrate. I think it's really important for us to celebrate also the really good experience we have. And so we met with the department chairs one-on-one. It's really important for them to highlight what is the percentage of kids who are exceeding, or with using MCAS, what percentage of the kids got fives. And really understand what has gone on to that so we can extrapolate that and bring that beyond. And seeing also, is there a case of, is it something that the kids just missed that 5 or they just missed that exceeding, and where those adjustments can happen. So in those specific meetings with the department chairs, that's when we're talking about those in the guise of celebrating the wins, but also trying to expand those wins. Because again, seeing that growth, and that's the area, that's the direction we would like to go.
Yeah, I would just build on that. I think, looking at the scaled score and seeing how close kids are to the exceeding, and then what can we do if they're meeting expectations, but they're 1 or 2 points away or 3 points away from exceeding, take a look at that. Was it in the writing piece, or was it just one particular area that they fell down on, and trying to, support them in that? Because the software that Christine's talking about, open architects that we have now, that the state provides us, allows us to really drill down on every kid. And it lets us know exactly where they are, and you probably use it too, right? I mean, it's exactly where everyone is, and we know exactly what question it is and how we can support that. So we definitely go to that level as well.
I agree with that. The question I'm noticing too around MCAS aside, I think when you say getting a 5, you're referring to APs?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so I'll just double check.
Sorry, that's
Just
part of
what you
all the
meant.
data
Yep.
meetings is AP, sorry. Yeah.
So, and that is targeting a certain population as well, and I think it's the encouragement. I'm seeing kind of like the same pool, and maybe what you're talking about. I see a lot of adjustment between ME and EE, but kind of like that same pool of between 22, 23%, and 27% on PM and NM.
Yeah.
like at a constant rate. How are we getting those to beef up that pool, right? How are we getting them into the meets expectations? That was one question. Love Open Architects. We own the full package in my district, so including all of our benchmark assessments on top of that layer. If that is, I hear a lot about I mean, MCAS is great and all, but this is like one snapshot of like any given day, you know, of a student, and dropping the mic. That's what was tangled around my feet. Sorry about that. And I'm sure Hillary may have opinions about her MCAS experience over the years, and the pressure around it. But I guess it's how do we look at this data, you know, with that, you know, I mean, do we need to fund the full open architect package and get these common assessments that I've been hearing about year over year and getting those in to actually see that data over time? Because, but I'm looking at the ELA information here, and I'm reflecting that upon my curricular experience through my children. I'm seeing through my children and my children's peers. Things like process writing, you know, I'm seeing this drop in ELA.
Yep.
And in the old days, we called it writing across the curriculum, but I was told you can't call it that anymore. So, you know, process writing, where it's reflection, and I'm seeing that in the experience of the curriculum and reflective in the MCAS scores. So grade 7 looks great, drops right down, and I guess we are a policy and a budget process. What do we need to do to give you the tools to kind of get that reflection making into results into the curriculum?
Okay, that was big
there.
question.
Yeah, sorry, that was a lot to
unpack there.
So,
I'll do my best. I think what you see in terms of the math elementary is a clear example of we have a structured program which allows us to have this, to make these adjustments because we know where the standards, we know where it's taught, we see a hole, we can make an adjustment, and we do that. I think ELA and supporting our ELA curriculum that we'd love to go forward with would help us to do the same thing in elementary, and then I think that would be a real tremendous lift, as well as, I'm going to say it, as well as the middle school math process that we're going through as well. I think you'll see some of the successes that you saw with our changes in math that we'll be able to be both, again, all doing well, but we'll be able to take it to the next level, both in that, so that curricular piece. What's happening
If I could so I would say, Leo, if you want to help us from a school committee point of view, then after I do my presentation in the budget, you want to direct me that when we do the superintendent's recommended budget in a month, that all what Christine is talking about is in there, because it's not in there now. It's level service now, that's it. So, I mean, I think that's an important, which isn't usually the case, but given what we've been tasked to do as a 1.3, that's kind of level service what you're going to see tonight.
well, and I think, but there's a lot of work you've already done, right? And I think, and I don't think it's reflective in the MCAS scores. Right?
So yes. The work that is in process that is happening is looking at standards in a really deep and meaningful way across the entire K-12. So it's something that, again, a structured curricula in elementary, it makes it's something that is there and will definitely, the curricula will make a huge difference. But what's happening in 612 is that we're really looking deeply. And it's more than looking at curriculum mapping, because what curriculum mapping does, it takes a particular unit and it asks teachers to map, for instance, what's the overall goals and objectives, what's the assessment, it asks those different pieces. The one thing it doesn't really drill super deep into, it asks for the significant goals and objectives and some overall overarching standards, but it doesn't drill down. So what we've done this year,
What doesn't drill down? What are we talking about?
in terms of the voluminous amount of standards that are, remember I showed you on the screen, and how you can drill down on how many times fractions have showed up on the grade 3 MCAS, for instance.
Right.
And so what has been in terms of introduced with the chairs this year is not only is that having a more finely tuned curriculum mapping that is reflective of their practices. It's also, the part two is that standards themselves are identified and mapped. So it's more than just the curriculum itself, it's where is the standard being mapped? And this a lot of this work came out of the ELA vertical team, where we were looking specifically at, for instance, writing standards. And what we were realizing in discussions having pre-K through 12 in the same room is that in some cases that there were concepts that were being taught couple of grades ahead. Sometimes it was overlap. It wasn't this consistency, and it came through conversations of teachers. And we realized if we follow these standards across and being thoughtful in terms of how they're mapped, they're realizing that we could be more efficient in terms of we're not having this overlap. We can control for gaps, and we can also control for these holes. So example, I use is poetry. That came directly out of a ELA vertical team with discussions realizing that there are areas that were expected in the curricula to be taught, but it was almost that everyone expected someone else to teach it, and it wasn't until that we've had these discussions and we've had this actually on paper that we realized these are holes.
Right, sure, okay. And how, and aside from MCAS, the benchmark assessments that I hear about but have yet to see, and I'm sorry if I'm being direct around that, because we see MCAS, and this is our one assessment stuff that we get to see each year. And again, it's a snapshot. How is the others? Because we shouldn't, as a professional, you wouldn't want to give an assessment and not be able to adjust immediately.
Right.
Right, within the curriculum.
So we've had a lot of discussions and are across. This is something that is very common, especially in elementary, but in secondary is having a conversation. What is a common assessment? What is the definition of a common assessment? Is it pulling from the same group of questions or really having the exact same assessment, right? So we had a lot of conversations about in terms of what is that and then where does that happen? And then now working with, now that those are developed and attached to a common spreadsheet that I have, and it is something that using that information so you have these assessments that are along the way, and to have different checkpoints along the way to see, okay, we can do a pulse check across everyone who's in 8th grade, for instance, and where are kids performing. And that's something that we have, which will really help, is the STAR math in middle school, and STAR reading will be something in middle school coming hopefully in the future. And then those are examples of the screeners that we can use for the skill piece. And then again, looking at our
Twice a year on both of those?
Three
times?
Three catches, beginning, middle, and end.
Those already in 6th grade?
I'm sorry?
We've started those already?
Oh, we've right now in math is done in 6 through 8. And beginning of year, the middle of year catch will be in, I think, the second week of January.
How many years have we been doing that?
For math, for middle school, this is the first year.
We're doing it 13 years in elementary.
It's a long time. And the data's been great, and now we can really connect and bridge that middle school and elementary school experience, which is great as well, because the data will travel with the kids. So that's an example of that. And again, really having those conversations of, okay, we did a lot of PD over common grading assessment practices in terms of that, really understanding that, and now it's really having that common assessment and then using these assessments to go and seeing and evaluating across and what's the student's experience.
Those common assessments translating into the high school grades as well. So like if a student is taking, I don't know, Hillary, maybe you can help me here, grade 11 mathematics, pre-calculus, and have two different teachers, the assessments are identical.
Yeah, same. And that wasn't, when I...
Sorry, Hillary, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Yeah.
When I was a high school teacher, that was not the case at all. It is now the case where two people who are taking the same English 9 are taking the same assessment.
Just to make sure, my understanding is there's no sort of additional measure in the high school, similar to STAR or in elementary school, of that to measure student growth other than you're looking at.
At the high school, we have MCAS.
There's no
No, so we again, rolling STAR through grade 8 right now, and using those data, and then having conversations on making sure that our data 9 through 12 is the curricula data is honed and is there. We have those common assessments and really making sure that there's this.
So
but we worked a lot on
the high
that.
school screeners are all social emotional based. There's no curriculum screeners like that at K-8.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, so if, in 9th grade, social studies say, you know, the two different teachers, same curriculum, there would be a chapter 10 test here and a chapter 10 test here, and you could pull a report to do
It's certain,
distribution
in
across.
certain times over a time. I know that there are times, for instance, if, depending on the cycle, having the essay question and, you know, over an 8-day cycle, you give it to one, you can't have the, like, things like that. But
I meant like, so that you, as a person up here.
Yes,
Can
to
say
see.
across the board in grade 9 performance,
and-
and like, how are our grade 9 students doing at this point in time? And be able to look at a cumulative across all grade 9 students and be able to trust at some point, right? I know there's differences between.
We're working on the, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
but in some manner so that you can come to us and say, hey, we need a new grade 9 curriculum.
Yeah.
And here's how I know this, right? And I think that is something that I think globally is missing from education. That's why, and the only place I can make a difference is here, so.
yeah. We're working, again, the kickoff for the meeting with the department chairs in September was, we really need to look at our curriculum maps, we need to look at our common assessments, we really need to look at our standards that we're meeting, and then making sure that we know our standards really well, and that the standards are also connecting to everything. And that's what the vertical teamwork is really highlighted. And that's something that, again, working with the high school and 612 department chairs that's an ongoing project we're working with them.
Of course, yeah. Sorry for all the questions.
Be ongoing for a long time.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Evolving.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Christine.
Thank you, Christine.
All right, next up, we have policy ECAF, security cameras in the school.
So just an informational, we shared that last time. It's just changing that verbiage in there.
And you guys reviewed this at the policy subcommittee meeting in November, or no?
We did not do that. No,
that.
we're going to do that before our next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions on the policy? Okay. All right, on to the budget. Dr. Marsden?
Sure. So I just have a short presentation on our initial FY '27. I think Michael's going to put that up there. And I will go through it.
Seven.
As we do every time in December, when we
Six,
go through
'cause
that
Michael's
initial
logged
budget
in.
presentation, I think we probably met with more committees more at this point than we have in years. Typically, we have a initial meeting when we outline guidelines, et cetera, and then we have a more formalized meeting in February usually, or even sometimes in March. But we've had a couple of conversations with the warrant committee already, and we had the joint meeting in this room a couple of weeks ago to start talking about the FY '27 budget. Next slide, Michael. So just a reminder as we go through this, that this is the initial first draft, first pass budget. It's not my recommended budget, which happens in the end of January. We're going to fine tune the numbers, keep going through, so we have what we think is a good budget for the January 29th public hearing. We're also preparing the warrant committee recommended budget of 1.3% increase. And you folks, as you know, take ownership of that budget after the public hearing, and it's not officially done until May 4th at the town meeting. So to this date, Michael and I have had several meetings, usually 20 to 25 meetings with department chairs, principals, directors, et cetera. We go through all of it. We review their initial information, what their requests are. I do want to say, I know I said it earlier, I want to say it again, I'll say it another time as we go through this. None of those recommendations from the principals, directors, none of them are in here. This is a level service budget, same people, same programs, same everything, just increases along the way, which are either contractual or increases to other areas, which I'll get into. Some of the assumptions we made as we went through this, that we're looking at our federal entitlement grants, which we do have a lot, will be level funded, or we've even talked about and heard that they could be reduced slightly. So we just took that in consideration as well. Our Chapter 70 will be level funded. Remember, Chapter 70 is the money that's earmarked from the state to the town that's to be spent on schools. And we've talked about this over the last several years, that our town meeting happens in May. The state hasn't finalized their budget until July, and the number of Chapter 70 is higher in July than it is in May. So there's additional Chapter 70 money that goes to the town directly. I assume that goes into free cash, but that will be a question if we get together as a group again that we'll talk about, whereas that, it's been almost $500,000 in the last 4 years combined. So you're looking at $500,000 that was earmarked to schools that, because of timing, did not go directly to us. We're looking at additional revenue reduction due to full-day kindergarten. That may change by the time we get to the 29th in January. I may come to you and ask for a reinstatement of full tuition for kindergarten, depending on where we are budget-wise at then. And then our circuit breaker, which is the reimbursement we get for special education services, we funded at 75%. We have federal grants that offset our budget, as I said, so the 631 is our biggest one. That's 94-142 special education entitlement grant, and then we have several others, but total grants 676,000 that we use to offset, and that's the current FY26 numbers that we're sharing. We have receipts as well. The town side has receipts. We have receipts. So right now we're looking at a projection of $3,431,000 in our receipts, which again is used to offset our will be offset our FY27 budget. Some of our drivers that we have are pretty typical. Our personnel is obviously the biggest driver. Utilities is really, Michael does a really good job going out to bid for utilities and getting that with the town to get a good price from a third-party vendor. Right now, we're planning on 67% increase in our gas prices, and that's what we heat all our buildings with. So that's a problem for us. Transportation would be year one of our new contract that you approved at a meeting last month. That's going to increase over $150,000. Special education transportation, which is only for about 16 or 17 children, is going to go up around the same thing, about $150,000. And then I think, we continue to invest in student services, which is really important for our district and our community, but those costs are certainly going up as well. So those are our drivers going forward in FY27. Approved budget this current fiscal year, $44 million. Our initial is 46 with an increase of 2.2 million or 5%. And that's level service. So that's not, again, adding those positions that we had talked about that the principals and directors asked for, or any of the other non-personnel items that they've asked for are not in this budget right now. So the gap that we have right now between what we're asking for and what we're looking at in this initial budget and what the warrant committee guidelines are is about a $1.6 million gap. So, with that gap, that there come consequences if we don't make that gap, or if the town decides not to go for an override or support an override. Michael, the next slide. So implications, looking at that reduction force is always something that, will certainly be considered as we go through the process, which is not what we're looking to do. I would say that if we are in a situation where we're at a 1.3, it slowly dismantles the district and not not in our plans at all what we want to do. We're going to look at eliminating programs, and we've said we've done that in the past. Usually when it comes to the end of our budget season and we're getting into town meeting, we typically have to reduce a little more, and lots of times the warrant committee will ask us to reduce, or the town will ask us to reduce, and we do that, and sometimes we look at fractional employees, reducing them a little more, and eliminate some programming. I think you have to talk about eliminating or reducing services. I know some of the things that we'll have conversations about that aren't great. We're only required to bus kids K to 6. We're not required to bus kids 7 through 12. Is that something we consider looking at? I think that would obviously be inconvenience to families for sure, and it would be a traffic nightmare in this community. But that's something to consider, looking at what we have for buses. It would cause problems for sure, but that's an example of reducing or eliminating services. And then increasing existing fees or creating new fees. Just right off the conversation that we had with Brenda and Nat of what that Medfield experience looks like. I really don't think it's a great idea to start looking at, creating new fees for people and parents and increasing fees, but I think we would probably consider, as I said earlier, the tuition and bringing that back to the 3,000 point where it was prior to our strategic plan to reduce that to go to free all-day kindergarten tuition. So I think a lot of tough conversations coming up in this committee and in our community, how we're going to address some of these issues that we have, because at $1.6 million gap is a huge gap to close, and we're going to have to look really hard and make some very difficult decisions as a district in in a school committee. Next one, Michael. So what does this include? It is level service, as we said, same people, same programs. It does include a cost of living increase, steps, lanes, and longevity to our collective bargaining agreements. And you know that we're currently negotiating Unit A. It increased the special education tuitions. Our instructional software and licenses continue to go up every year. The transportation that we talked about, both general ed and special education, transportation, everything costs more now, supplies and services, and then the utilities that are really going to be a problem for us. The 67% of gas is not great. So there we have it with our level service, and let's not confuse level service with level funding. Level funding would be the exact same amount, that 46 that was given to us in FY26. This is level service, same level of service across the district, but the increases that you see in this slide would be part of that. Next slide, Michael. So again, the process does continue like it does every January, February, March. So we have obviously upcoming school committee meetings. We'll have meetings with the warrant committee, town officials. I'm not sure if we're going to have another joint meeting. I know that was a date was thrown out there, but we couldn't really get a date in January, so I know that might be coming up. We have our public hearing at the end of the month, in which it will be the recommendation that I think we should have. We'll put out our flip book again for the budget prior to that, so folks can take a look at all the line items in the entire budget and see, where we're spending and how that's being spent. And then our annual town meeting, again, is where that is approved. And then if there is an override in an election, that would happen after that at some point. So happy to answer any questions or take any comments.
I'll just say I want to thank everyone that has been involved to getting us to this point, and the warrant committee and the select board and our financial leadership and everyone who's contributed to getting us to this first draft. I know that the process is complex and this year is going to be really challenging, and I just appreciate the work that's gone into it already. I feel like this isn't like really positive information, and I have a lot of personal concerns about an override and the timing of it and everything. I'm worried a little about committing to the concept of an override without a lot more research done in a lot of different places in regards to like making sure that there's, I guess, not missed opportunities in regards to different revenue streams and things of that nature. I recognize the significance of like the structural deficit that we're in, but I think there's value in just looking at alternatives and things before we settle in that space. We know we have a new school we're going to be asking the town for in probably 18 to 24 months from this town meeting, and I think the timing of that is tight. So I guess I don't feel like I have a good temperature on the community, and if they'd be open to that type of, we're asking you for money here and then we're asking you for money again. Will there be a negative impact or a ripple effect or financial anxiety or financial fatigue in that type of ask so close together? I want the school project to have the most chance for success that it can. So again, I would like to be in a place where we can really be exhaustive in how we're looking at getting us to I guess, kind of try to close this gap if we can in different ways. And I guess I just feel like, I know that the lights went out, so we didn't really, there might be some things that we didn't really get to dive into that we wanted to with everybody there. But I recognize that Medfield, X amount of years ago and 20 plus years ago was positive in their place of passing overrides, but I think if you look to communities around us, it has not been the case. Millis recently failed their operating override. Franklin has failed too. Natick did pass theirs, but it wasn't, by huge margins. I sat in at MASC, when I was at MASC, I sat in a panel that was about overrides specifically. It was Belchertown and Hudson, maybe? It was an H-town up by Marlboro. They both passed, but the people in the panel were not like, it was so amazing, I totally recommend it, you should do it again. Like, it was like straight off the battlefield. It was not positive. Belchertown passed by 21 votes, I think, to get their override to pass. And I don't know, I just feel like I want to be in a place where we can really be looking long-term in that space and trying to protect the debt exclusion vote as best as we can. Because I just feel like even if this passes in the end, I think we need to be thinking about the type of frustration or division or resentment that it could be creating the community that can continue to have a ripple effect into other places.
So I thought the only beneficial part that came out of that joint meeting was discussion about looking to the future, which only occasionally seems to happen. This committee looked and sat down with Warrant Committee and worked out a multi-year plan with Dr. Marsden on being able to set the future of the school budgets and be able to plan accordingly. I think that it's clear that they want to put the debt exclusion on the back of the schools, which is not uncommon in districts. We are the largest volume as far as the budget is, but at the same time, I'm hearing they're still hiring over at the town hall, and then there's this, and the talk of all the deferred maintenance again has come up about the buildings, and of course, in conjunction with the school. And so in my mind is, well, we've put everything on the table now, and what we haven't done is come up with a plan to pay for it all. And all the schools can do is come up with a plan for 3 years or 4 years conservatively to plan our budget, and then how to, figure out a way to get there. But there's a whole nother side of this that has an impact on us, like how many more firefighters and police fighters do we need, right? How are we gonna put the roofs on the schools? And somehow the FAF fell apart, and so now we gotta do something about the FAF. And all we know that that's a problem, but there's been no proposal about the solution. And so I think as we put together a plan, I'm hoping at that next joint meeting, and between now and then, that the conversations can be had, that there will be some sort of plan. Like, we're projecting out, that it's not, we have $120 million in roofs to do. Okay, schools, you need to cut something, right? And that's kind of where we left before the lights went out. And so, and I don't know if it's a working group of some sort, perhaps. There was, some towns have a capital planning committee that plan that out.
Yeah, Michael's on that committee. Yeah.
So, which would be addressing the $120 million over some sort of period of time and mapping that out accordingly. I mean, I know we've got some really great people in that budget office who can project out, how much to borrow here, how much to borrow there. So, and I think, and we did it before, with a previous school committee that I had just joined at the time, about being able to plan for that coming out. And I believe we passed an override, an operating override to do that. So I would say if there's a time that I wouldn't kick the can on an operating override to next year. I think if there's going to be a need for one in the town, regardless, I think now is the time to do it, than trying to negotiate a teacher's contract where we try to push off any kind of percentage increase in the future if we're not going to get it now, if you know what I'm saying. So I think all of those things combined together, I think are going to contribute to this. So I think if, regardless of whether or not one is if we're going to need one at some point in time, I believe sooner, rather than later. It's just my 2 cents.
I think that the workshop was a waste of my time. I felt like there was no collaboration. I think that meeting was held so the warrant committee could tell us what they had already decided without taking into, like what you said, any other solutions or any ways at looking at any other town departments besides the schools. I also feel there's some, if we go for an override and we blame it on the schools, right, you can get people to be supportive. And right, people aren't going to say yes, it's always the schools. And I feel like they're sort of, in some ways, I feel like throwing the schools under the bus to say, like, let's do an override for them, even though there's things in the town they could be doing to help fund our budget or other areas, and they don't want to look at those options. And I am very worried about asking for an override so close to the debt exclusion, but I also think it's irresponsible for someone on a selectman to get up here and say they think people are making more money and people are in a good spot, and like people are going to be supportive of like passing a 2% override because people are making more money. And I think that's like irresponsible, because I don't think that's everyone's situation. And then I think, you know, hearing what Nat says and Brenda said, and like the cost of the experience and stuff, and then to be so flippant about like, oh, the town can afford an override. I just think those are very different opinions, and what is the reality. Like, I would love to get to a point where we at least look at some other options the town does as how to potentially avoid an override. I do get your point that I don't want to just kick it down the road and have to do it next year and have it even be closer, but I potentially think there's other alternatives to pushing for an override even until after the debt exclusion. And I think that's not being considered at all by the warrant committee.
I'm going to add whatever that override is, it needs to include whatever the town thinks they're going to need on top of our projections.
I agree.
So, because we shouldn't ask for another one.
Or I'd like to see if we have to cut stuff, what is other departments cutting? If the schools are going to say, we can operate on this budget, here are the sacrifices we're making, I'd like to see library, senior center, police, fire, every single one take a portion of what they're cutting, so it's not as drastic to the schools.
I think too, you know, if we're like, there's still that parcel of land up by Hospital Hill. Like, again, before we ask people for money, I recognize it's a one-time influx of funds, but there doesn't seem to be any conversation about selling it. It's just go to the residents and see if they'll give you more money for your stuff. Like, could we also ask the residents if they'd be willing to sell that and utilize the money there in a way that would help some of these? Parcel B.
Yes, I don't think there's any conversation from the select board particularly, or, right, like thinking about, in the town really thinking about how do we get out of this situation long-term and think about other revenue streams for the town without changing the character of our town. And I get that, like, I don't want a Walmart on, like, you know, next to the library, because that wouldn't really fit, but I also think, like, we do have to think about, like, where can we make some trade-offs? And again, I think that those conversations haven't been fully explored before it's coming to say, like, let's ask for an override for the town.
Well, and I'm not pretending to understand all the intricacies of the town side's budget at all, right? I just know what it takes to operate our schools, and I just know, as a resident who aside from the school committee, who came in very excited about all the plans 13 years ago for the Hospital Hill, that here we are 13 years later.
Yep.
And it's a great dog park, and I do.
For people who don't live in Medfield.
And I do appreciate the cultural shows up by the old clock tower and everything. That part I also appreciate. And however, I was really excited about some of the plans, and I realize the state is kind of holding that up. And then there's tax revenue that could come in with all of that. But planning on that tax revenue right now, I thought that was completely not something that should be on the table. Like, having that conversation whether or not that sale goes through and having that tax piece, you never know when that tax bill is going to actually be paid.
Yep.
Like, we can't really count on that actual revenue. So, to your point, I just think there wasn't anything real on that. However, it was an initial meeting. I think it's great to have more of them, at least another one. But I think there should be some serious transparency in the budgets around that. So I'm with you on that. That's my, and who knows, we may have gotten there if the lights didn't go out. So.
Sure. Maybe.
Anything else?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Marsden.
Thanks.
All right, the Rose Bay Housing Project discussion.
So in your materials, we included the memo that went to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and Maria De La Fuente, who's the Director of Land Use and Planning, met with us meaning department heads, and went through the process and went through the project with us. That's at 30 Pound Street. So you'll see that the police department, the fire department, the DPW, and the school department all added some information on there about just general concerns or questions and that type of thing. I tried to highlight some of the ones that really pertain to us as a school district and in the proximity right next to the high school. Number 3, from the police department, you'll see the smoking area designation. Believe it or not, we get a lot of complaints about this. So we'll get families that will call us and say, you know, there are folks from Tilden Village that are right in front of Blake, sitting on the rock, smoking cigarettes, right? We get complaints about that all the time. So that's real. You know, the police department get those calls or whatever. So I think that was something that Chief and I had talked about, and she thought it was really important to put in there, and I agree.
Jeff, is that because they can't actually smoke on the Tilden property?
I think so.
Yes,
I'm not sure.
Yes, they can't smoke on that property, so then they go onto the,
Sidewalk.
yep.
The pedestrian lighting, which I think came out of public comment today, that's something that we talked a lot about, and there is a plan to put a path that goes almost similar to where it is at the high school now, that goes from the high school to Pond Street. And there was just some concerns around lighting, that wasn't really effective lighting there, and also the DPW actually had Mo had a really good idea around making sure that path is right against the fence, the property line fence, so that kids aren't drifting and going towards the parking lot and getting through any of that area, so they're actually right along the edge of that property. So we talked a little bit about that as well. The emergency access road and gate came up on my comments and also on other comments with other departments. So that, if you've seen the drawings, right where, almost right near the daycare playground is where the access road is going to be, going into the area, into the Rose Bay. So it's interesting because
Like an actual road?
it's an actual road, and it's an access road because they need to have, fire department needs to have access behind the buildings. And they can't go all the way around like they do with a school because the property's so tight. So they have to put an access road in there. So we had a really good conversation on what that gate looks like. Is it going to be just a regular metal swing gate? Is it going to be a 6-foot gate that locks and only the police department and fire department have keys to it? So a lot of conversation around that. The plans right now actually have a walking area to the right of the gate, which we all agreed that doesn't need to be there because people don't need to walk in that area if there's going to be a walkway over on the left-hand side of the property. So we talked a lot about that and what the impact of that would be. Again, the emergency access lane came out of the public works as well. Ongoing maintenance of it, because, Public Works does a lot of, helps us out with our maintenance of snow, et cetera, and who's going to maintain that access area, because that needs to be maintained. Is it going to be the school? Is it going to be DPW? Is it going to be owner of Rose Bay? So all those kinds of questions we talked about. Again, the pedestrian access that and then, we have a playground there for our daycare program at the high school that is sitting right on the property where they want to build. So we're going to have to move that out of there and put it somewhere else. So we have to organize that with the developers, and then the questions around the access road, I think, were pretty obvious based on what other departments said and what, we had said as well. So it's a lot. I mean, that project's a lot, and it's, it's going to be right, when you drive out of here, you can take a look at it, it's going to be right there.
Can I ask a question?
I'm sorry, is it going to be how close is this construction going to be? Is it going to be no more grass between the driveway and the?
Pretty much. It's
Yeah, I
pretty
think it
close.
goes right in between
It's
that
like
house
maybe
and
three
Tilden Village,
feet of
like
grass.
that.
It's pretty close. Yeah.
Who do we, sorry, who owned this land before? Like whose land is that?
State land.
So, got it, so that's what I thought. So the state is they owned that piece of land and now they're selling it. Got it.
So
Why did they
it's-
own that piece of land?
It's going to be super close to
Well,
us.
right, it's just in my mind, I'm like, why would the state own this small piece of land
I think it
unrelated
was
to?
the whole parcel. It's the whole
Parcel,
parcel.
because they
Tilden
own
Village, that whole
Tilden,
area
yeah,
there.
so now it's just to be able to build more.
Yeah.
Got it.
And it's my understanding this is an unfriendly 40B, not a friendly 40B, because we're under
Yes,
the
I knew
10%
that.
right now, so.
Yep, I knew that.
You know, it's still a little ways away, but I thought it'd be important to just at least bring this up, talk about it, because of the proximity, we are abutters, and it is taking some of our, what we thought was our land away from us, and the building will be really, I would say similar, Leo, to the fence that goes along Tilden Village, it's gonna be that close, if you can picture that.
Yeah, that's close.
It's close.
Have we maintained that property for more than 7 years? Can we?
Because we have
take
picnic
that-
tables where the kids eat lunch out there too, so.
Take that- Yeah, that's what I mean.
Squatters' rights, like after so many years, you technically,
7 years.
So certainly more to come, but I think
Did we
it's,
ask for an easement or anything in regards to letting that stay school-specific?
we're definitely gonna do that. I think that's part of what the town wants to do. I think there'll be a time at some point where members of the school committee might have to go to various boards to have a conversation and share their concerns about what it looks like, so.
I would say the only thing I saw about the maintaining a walkway for the students to cut through, I think that I saw that, was a crushed stone. I wouldn't recommend paving it.
Right, it was crushed stone,
I
yes.
think right now it's just grass.
It's just grass.
Yeah, right
It's a
now
worn
there's
down
just.
grass path
Well,
that
yes,
they use, yeah.
exactly. There
But
is
I
no
think-
like path.
Yeah, but again, they recommended putting
Yes.
crushed stone. I
Yeah.
would just recommend paving it. If you're gonna pave a road, you might as well just pave the walkway too.
Yeah, I don't know why the
It's not
recommendation
pavement's
came
not
from
great for
crushed
the
stone.
environment, like.
Maybe
It's
so
just
the
maintained
bike,
at
maybe
the-
so that
I know,
bikes aren't
I know,
running
but,
on it,
like,
that kind of
I
thing. It's
just-
for, literally for walking and that's it. So, interesting. I'll keep you informed and as we go through the process and if there's anything that we need to report out.
It has a
on.
nice
I got a
name.
kid.
Huh?
Go
I
ahead.
got a kid.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You got the task force update?
Sure,
We get that.
absolutely.
I will.
I will.
Enjoy. Drive safe, or walk safe, wherever you're going. All right, actually, we'll real fast. Can you do a school committee meeting on March 12th instead of March 19th? It's a Thursday to Thursday switch.
Sure.
Great. Okay, next up is the rescheduling of the March 19th school committee meeting.
We will just reschedule.
What does
that.
Will want?
We know what Will's okay with. For everyone else, the conflict, so we're looking to move it from the 19th to the 12th. Does that work for people?
It's fine with me.
Sure.
Okay. That be done. All right, any other items since posting on December 16th?
There are none, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right, on to old business, policies. We have the second reading for policy IKF and policy IKFE.
So no changes on that, although I will give you an update. I was able to meet with the new Commissioner Martinez last week. He met with the Executive Board of MASS, and he did talk to us a little bit about this, and I know we've talked in this group that this could be a vote now, and then we could be voting on something again next year and that kind of thing. Excuse me. So he did say to us that it will be good for the class of 26 and the class of 27, and it may even go on to the class of 28. So at least 2 years of what the plan right now to roll out the end-of-course assessments and all the other components that the governor's group has put forward. It looks like those are going to be, what students will have to do. And that probably won't change, but the implementation time will change, and it could be several years of implementation because, as we were told, they want to phase out MCAS at grade 10 and introduce end-of-course assessments at grade 10.
But if this is a governor's initiative,
Correct. But I think it's also with the Secretary of Education
Right.
and DESE as
right?
well. I think they're all
I'm
they're
just
all
saying,
working
like,
together on it.
you could have a different governor.
Good.
By
yeah, I
the
mean,
time, if that rollout takes that long. So
Could,
I
it
feel like
could.
what I don't like about this is the thrash back, the
So-
potential thrash back and forth.
Agreed. I think there are definitely some issues around that,
Mm-hmm.
the timing of it. But I think because it would be such a change for districts and you have to get practitioners in to develop the end-of-course assessments that will be given to all students.
I understand why it would
Yeah.
take that long. I'm just
Yeah,
saying, I think
it's a lot. It's a lot, and I think that they have committed, or at least they committed at that meeting, that they would help develop the test in the end-of-course assessments. We would have practitioners do that with them. they would coordinate that, they would send them to districts, and they would correct them and send data back to districts. So it sounds a lot like a bunch of little MCAS tests, to be honest with you, but
Right.
that's kind of what's happening. But it won't be the sole determination of a student whether they graduate or not. So I think that's the difference that they're hanging their hat on a bit, that it's not one test that says you're going to graduate or not. It's multiple tests, and there's other layers to it, so it's not going to be, we were told last week that if a child fails one of these end-of-course assessments, it will not prohibit them from graduating. So we're still waiting for what that looks like and how that is, but that was what we were told, so more to come. So anyway, the good news is your vote's going to last more than 1 year. It should be at least the class of 26 and class of 27.
Is there any questions on the policy? Do you guys feel ready to vote on it? Yes, no, maybe?
We're voting next time, I thought.
We can vote tonight, right?
You vote tonight, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the next one, the middle school one, is the,
We can vote on these ones tonight and then the middle school.
middle school will be at the next meeting. yeah.
Got it. I'm fine.
All right, do I hear a motion to approve policy IKF as presented in our packet?
Motion to approve, is that what I say?
You can say that, yeah.
Yeah, motion to approve.
Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I didn't know if I had to restate what Michelle said, so I was
Say
like,
So moved.
okay.
We do, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And do I hear a motion to approve policy IKFE as stated in our packet?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Thank you.
All right, then we have policy, the first reading of policy JG.
And that has not changed since the informational.
Okay.
That's the same.
Any comments or questions on that? Okay. On to the mobile phone social media task force update, Dr. Marston?
Sure. So we did have a meeting last week or the week before. Groups met, and we had some really good conversations. So one of the things that we got to was we're going to host a Medfield talk sponsored by the Mobile Phone Task Force on January 26th, and it's going to be one of the screenagers. There are 4 of them right now. We're going to do the one that's directed or focused on elementary students. So it's a newer one, a couple of years old. We haven't shown that one yet in town, and that will be a really focus, because I think what the group thought of is that that's kind of what we're doing right now with the Wait Till 8th and all that. That's our core group that we're focusing on right now. So to try to get those parents in, and then we're deciding whether or not we're going to, at our next meeting, whether we'll have a panel after or discussion how we're going to do that. So we've secured that. We're good to go with that, and we're going to get the advertising out right after everyone comes back from break. And then one of the things that was interesting when we spoke to, they're actually doing one on AI, a screenagers on AI. And they did talk to me for a while on that, because although we heard tonight from our students, they're confused about that. In January, we're releasing the guide that we've worked on with MIT and teachers and everyone else. So that's going to be brought to you guys to take a look at. It's not going to be a policy, but guidelines around AI. And I talked to them about that, and it's interesting to see how we're approaching AI is different than other places. I mean, Massachusetts, I think, is approaching it similar, but other communities in other parts of the country are saying, okay, there's no more at-home expository writing. There's just blue books in classrooms. It's kind of like, we're going back to the 70s and 80s there. So we're not taking that approach. So it's interesting to hear what they're finding out, and they were interested in what we were finding out. They're going to actually come up to do filming for the movie, which is out, I think, in November of 26. They're going to Harvard to do some filming. I gave them our contact person at MIT that's worked with us, so they said they were going to check by MIT as well and have conversations.
Is that the Day of AI program?
What's that?
Is that the Day of AI program?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the bulk of our meeting was around that. I think we great attendance, people are still excited about it, and moving forward. So it's good.
Yeah, we should stop pushing that. I'm excited about that. That's January 26th, you said?
26th.
Yeah.
Monday night.
Okay, anything else on that? Okay, on to the SBC update. So we're moving on to module 2.
Yeah, module 2.
How was Friday's meeting?
Woohoo! It was long.
It was long.
They're timeless.
Oh, So Module 2 is exciting. On Friday, the MSBA board meeting, Medfield was officially invited to Module 2, which means we can start the hiring of an OPM, or an owner's project manager. The OPM will be in charge of helping the SBC in a lot of aspects of the building project. So yeah, it's an exciting time for us to move forward. I think, Leo, you can probably speak to this a little better, but this next early part of this phase goes it's really fast, right? Like,
Fast as Michael and Jeff can write that stuff up.
Yeah.
Well, we have a draft going to the SBC chairs tomorrow morning, so they'll take a look at that, and then I think we need to, the OPM review panel for MSBA, we're scheduled to be in the April review panel. So there are deadlines that MSBA gave us, and the first one is making sure that they have a draft copy of the documents by January 15th. So I think in speaking with the co-chairs, we're going to get a draft to them. They're going to review it. They're going to give it to the rest of the committee, and then kind of make that the focus of the January 7th meeting. And then any changes that need to be made after that, we'll make those and then get it right to MSBA at the end of that week. So we're on target for that, and then we'll see where it goes from there. And then the whole process, as you know, Leo, is pretty intensive hiring and going through all of that, so.
But it's pretty scripted to get stuff out, and so it'll go quickly. And then it's very helpful because the OPM does take over a lot of the operational items and keeps you on track, and brings people together and gets the programming committees and so, we're in the midst of that right this second, so we're just planned out. So I'll be in the midst of those meetings with the communities and everything else. Mike Perillo is back at it, and I'm not sure if we used him before, but so it's exciting stuff for folks, and it'll be exciting for us here. And I think it's an opportunity. I think it's one of the opportunities that we have to bring the community and get them involved in this. I can't stress that enough. So we should be probably thinking about that more and more. And I think we've got a good time of year to do that process. If we get the OPM on, get to the designer process and target that. Try not to do it during the summer.
Right. Even if we have some spring meetings and some fall meetings too, it's great. It's really good timing. Much better than winter meetings.
I will say one of the
Or
things,
during COVID on Zoom, like we did last time.
Exactly. I would say one of the things that they're very in tune to now is well, not that they weren't before, but time is money. So every month that ticks by, the project gets more expensive. So.
That's fair. Good to know. And still in search of neighborhood captains for the SBC. So, to your point of getting people involved, a way for community members to help the SBC share information and be in a space to just help us.
Have you put a call out for community captains?
Yeah,
they've
they've got a good group, but we probably, I think.
No, I just had, I knew you guys were looking for it, but I didn't see,
We should
ask for
mention
it
you get a
on.
free T-shirt with it. It's bright yellow. It's cool.
It's worth it.
Hillary, we can get you one.
I feel like
We hook you up.
we need some additional people who aren't sitting at this table, right? You need more support than.
I mean, it's
just
a bright
the-
T-shirt
It
too.
was like last spring that you said there were a couple neighborhoods you were still focused on that didn't have anything. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd
if
have
there's
to
been
double
any
check with
specific.
Carolyn if there was some.
Yes,
areas
hopefully
that
my
were-
neighborhood has
Yeah,
one.
there's lots. I'm
It's you,
hearing.
Diana. Yeah, that would be helpful information to demographically, or like
Yeah.
Yeah, just.
geographically understand where the holes in the buckets
The
are.
Lee Road area is underrepresented.
Okay, so anything else, any questions on that? All right, on to community engagement and communication. So we just talked about, we have Medfield Talks with Community Screenagers. Do we have any organizational updates to chat about?
I don't actually. I missed PTO. I had school committee.
There's nothing new to
Holiday
update.
shop was really fun.
It was great.
I heard it was great.
Everything's great.
Hillary, you have any updates?
I have a couple. Last week we had DECA, which was on Wednesday and Thursday, and I believe out of over 300 people, there are 45 state qualifiers, and hopefully more with bump ups and everything else. And then Business Bound Club at Medfield High School, which I'm a part of. We hosted a networking event last Tuesday here at the library. So we had over 35 students and 20 business professionals from different business sectors, such as finance, entrepreneurship, marketing, and AI. So we did a panel discussion, a 30-minute networking period, and then optional workshops. So it was a great opportunity for students to get advice from local business owners and kind of get real-world experience. So yeah, that was.
You guys look great. You're all dressed as professionals, look great, all of you. Fantastic.
Very cool. All right, anything else from anybody under informational items? All right, our next meeting will be January 15th. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good holiday.
Yes.
You too. See you at both.